Mormon dating is weird. I understand that things are different in the church even now, but 25 years ago, when I was first being swept off my feet by my teenage future husband, here's how the landscape was. We were being taught two things simultaneously. The purpose of dating is to find your forever someone, and don't date seriously. Let me explain. Even though Mormons are notorious for getting married when they're super young, teenagers were not pressured to jump into a relationship. Quite the opposite, actually. Our parents understood that we needed practice on how to interact with our romantic interests, but the young men were told to keep their serious eyes shut until they've returned from a mission, and the young women were taught to try to make it easier for the young men by staying modest and to not even consider dating exclusively. The problem with not being willing to date exclusively is that it leads to a lot of broken hearts. Where some may think they found the one they want to be sealed to for eternity, the other half of the equation could be looking for someone else to take to Sadie's, probably just because they weren't allowed to go on a date with the same boy 2 times in a row. And then, of course, who wants to be the mandatory interlude between dates with the preferred partner? It could get really hard to find anyone willing to date you when there was an obvious relationship being had there, especially when you were the girl. It's not that it was looked down on to ask a boy out when you were the girl, but it was scary, so it didn't happen very often. Thank goodness for polygamy, because it sure saved a lot of hassle there. When you found yourself in a love triangle or when things just got messy, we would go on group dates and didn't get serious until we weeded out anyone that didn't just fit in the group. Of course, I'm kidding. If you haven't heard, polygamy isn't an option in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints anymore. I first showed interest in my husband when I was 14. I broke his heart several times as we tried to navigate the dating challenges, but ultimately we were the high school sweethearts who got married at 19. You could say I kept him from going on his mission because he just couldn't stand to be without me, but of course it's always more complicated than that. So even though Mormons are known for getting married young, we didn't exactly follow the proper Mormon protocol when we did. If we had been better at it, we certainly would have been older and quite likely would have found other people. But because we were bad at staying apart, I get to say that I grew up with my husband, and we're still growing up together. I still think it was the best thing for us, though. People who navigate adulthood on their own get to find out who they are before they choose their partners, but then they have to find someone who's compatible with who they already are. My husband and I had to figure out how to grow up alongside each other. We quickly had to learn how to make compromises, pick our battles, forgive each other, and make space for each other. But most importantly, we were able to define our values together and discover what was most important as a couple, and not individually first. If ever our values didn't line up, we had to dig around and chisel away until they did. It was hard for us at first, but I think that's a pretty huge advantage for a couple when the goal is to stay married. And especially when the goal is to stay married for eternity. For some, it might look like I allowed myself to be tied down since before I even entered my 20s. But for me, I got to embark on my adult life with my best friend. My leash was actually a safety line, my tether to what was important while being enabled to fly. I'm not saying that getting married young and to your first love is the best move for everyone. I certainly know of high school sweethearts whose marriage ended in divorce. And I gotta wonder if having to navigate adulthood all by yourself for the first time as a much older adult is even harder. Like a kite trying to fly on its own. So take my own experience as advice with a grain of salt. Mormon dating is weird, but it's complicated for a reason. And it's still evolving. I don't know if it's any better today, and I'd probably be hard-pressed to find anyone that really thought so. But until we all adopt the ancient arranged marriage selection process similar to Rebecca and Isaac's, we're stuck learning how to navigate an important and sacred choice through modern means. It's messy, but Jesus makes up for it when you include him.